They say caring what others think is natural, that it's part of being human, that to be liked, respected, accepted, you must listen, you must conform, you must adjust. But have you ever noticed, the more you try to please others, the more you abandon yourself? You try to dress the right way, speak the right way, choose the safe path, make the smart decision, not because it feels true, but because it looks acceptable. And somewhere along the way, you forget what your own voice sounds like. This is the silent suffering so many carry, living a life that looks right from the outside, but feels hollow on the inside. You do everything to be admired, but feel more unseen than ever. You work so hard to be good, but good for whom? That's the paradox Osho invites us to explore. The more you live by others' opinions, the more you die to yourself. He said, the greatest fear in the world is the opinion of others. And the moment you are unafraid of the crowd, you are no longer a sheep. You become a lion. Sounds powerful, but it's also terrifying, because most of us don't even realize how addicted we are. Addicted to approval, addicted to validation, addicted to fitting in. And like any addiction, it feels good at first, until it owns you, until it becomes your quiet master. You hesitate before speaking your truth. You edit yourself in conversations. You hold back your joy, your sadness, your wildness, because what will they think? You've built a cage made of invisible bars. And the worst part? You don't even remember when you stepped inside. This isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. Because every time you silence your truth to win someone else's favor, you move farther away from your center, from your soul, from the very essence Osho calls your witnessing self. In today's video, we won't try to fix this. We won't try to teach you how to stop caring in some superficial way. Instead, we'll explore gently, honestly, what it means to see this addiction for what it is, to watch how it moves, how it seduces you, how it keeps you afraid of being fully you. Osho didn't say, don't care. He said, be alert. See how much of your life is dictated by others, and how little of it is lived in freedom. He didn't want you to rebel out of anger. He wanted you to return, silently, powerfully, to your own center, because beyond the fear of what they'll think is a stillness, a knowing, a self that was never up for approval in the first place. A self that doesn't crave permission, that doesn't shrink in shame, that doesn't need applause to feel alive. That's who you are, and it's been waiting patiently underneath all the masks. So in this video, we're not adding another voice to your head. We're inviting you to subtract, to remove what isn't you, to gently step out of the noise. And maybe, just maybe, you'll realize that the most dangerous drug isn't a substance. It's a smile you force to stay liked, a yes you say when you mean no, a life you live just to keep everyone else comfortable. Maybe you don't need another opinion. Maybe you just need a moment of truth, and to finally listen to the one voice you've been ignoring the longest, your own, unhooking from the gaze of the world. Osho was never concerned with improving your image. He was interested in waking you up from it. He saw how deeply we suffer under the weight of other people's expectations, how we build lives not from freedom, but from fear of rejection. In his talk from the Book of Understanding, Osho says, once you drop the idea of being approved by others, for the first time you can be yourself. That is the beginning of real freedom. This is not just advice, it is a revolution of perspective. Because we've been taught since birth, be liked, be agreeable, be good in their eyes. But Osho challenges that entire foundation. He says, if you're always adjusting your being for others, you're not living, you're only reacting. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that reflects not your face, but their gaze. You smile because it's expected. You hide because it's safer. You pretend just to stay loved. This, Osho says, is the most dangerous kind of prison, because the bars are made of approval, and the door is wide open, but we never walk out. He tells us, the moment you stop caring what others think, you become dangerous, because you are no longer controllable. Controllable by society, by family, by religion, by culture, by anyone who benefits from your obedience. And so, what appears on the surface to be politeness or niceness is underneath a lifelong habit of abandoning your authenticity. It is spiritual self-erasure. In love, freedom, aloneness, Osho writes, people say what others say about you doesn't matter, but it matters deeply to the ego, because the ego is not your truth, it is a reflection, a shadow. It only exists when someone else is watching. And there it is. The ego needs watchers. It feeds on recognition. It survives on applause. It withers in silence. So the question is no longer, how can I stop caring what people think? But rather, what part of me is doing the caring? What part of me is addicted? And do I even want to keep feeding it? Osho doesn't tell you to fight the ego. He tells you to observe it. Watch it beg for likes. Watch it twist into shapes to avoid judgment. Watch it panic in the absence of praise. And in that watching, something miraculous happens. You realize you are not the one craving approval. You are the one witnessing the craving. You are not the ego. You are the space behind it. And suddenly a quiet freedom begins to grow. The opinions don't stop. The judgments don't disappear. The crowd still stares, comments, categorizes. But you're no longer reacting. You're simply watching. And that is freedom. It's not loud. It doesn't need to shout, I don't care what you think. It simply stops rearranging itself for others. It just is. Osho called this the beginning of real individuality. Not rebellion, not arrogance, but the flowering of a self that is whole even when unseen. A self that no longer needs performance, that no longer performs need. Because when you're no longer trying to be anything for anyone, you finally remember what it feels like to be. Encourage. The joy of living dangerously, Osho writes. The courageous person is not one who fights the world, but one who dares to be himself in a world that demands masks. This is the path. Not to become fearless, but to stop building your identity on their fears. Not to argue with their opinions, but to stop feeding your sense of self from them. Osho doesn't ask you to be against society. He asks you to be for truth. And your truth cannot be defined by popularity. In fact, the moment you truly live from the inside out, you'll likely be misunderstood, but you'll also be free. And that, he says, is worth everything. No more mirrors, only stillness. So now what? You've heard the truth stir beneath the surface, that the image you project isn't who you are. That every time you shapeshift to gain approval, you lose a small part of your being. But this isn't a call to fight, not to scream, rebel, or prove yourself in defiance. It's an invitation to step out, silently, without drama, without explanation. Osho never offered a method to free you from others. He simply pointed toward awareness. He said, just be alert, watch, and see how you are constantly haunted by others' eyes. Haunted, not hated, not harmed, just haunted, by echoes of voices that aren't yours, by dreams that were never yours, by standards no one ever asked if you truly agreed with. So pause. Don't answer yet. Don't rush to delete or declare. Just sit, softly, and feel what it's like to drop the performance. Maybe just for a breath. Maybe just for a single minute. Can you exist without adjusting, without defending, without pleasing? No one's watching now. There's no audience here. No feedback. No score. Just you. And the strange, quiet hum of your own presence. Let it be awkward. Let it feel empty. Let it feel like nothing. Because in that nothing, you may find the first moment of true peace you've felt in years. Osho never gave answers. He never said, here is your new self. Instead, he slowly peeled away what was never real. He never told you to stop listening to others. He just showed you how little of your life was truly yours. He didn't ask you to scream, I don't care. He invited you to whisper, I remember who I was, before they told me who to be. And maybe that's the real awakening. Not the becoming, but the unbecoming. Not the conquering, but the surrender. Not the revolution, but the return. So maybe you don't need to change yourself. Maybe you just need to stop editing the parts of you that make others uncomfortable. Maybe you don't need to be seen. You just need to see yourself without the mirror, without the mask, without the crowd. And maybe that's enough.